So anyways, as I was saying, like, that's just not my dad. My dad is the most loving, caring, just a all around, good person. And so, I never thought, drugs change people. I never thought that it would change him enough to, you know, essentially have somebody rob me. Um, but anyways, sorry, there's, people around. Yeah, listen, gotta stay sharp. Um, but so in what while we were, talking and drinking and stuff, they informed me that Ben is notorious, I guess, for like trading favors, for drugs kind of thing, because he's a drug dealer. Um, and I didn't know that up until this point, that he was a drug dealer. I thought that he was just a user. I didn't know he was a drug dealer kind of thing. But so essentially, you know, we were talking about that and stuff, and so I'm convinced that um, he's blackmailing my dad. And I'm, been drinking and stuff. No excuses. I think that I would have made the same decision um, if I was sober to talk to the police. If this situation lined up like this, just because, while I was drinking, I go to pick up more beer and stuff, and there's a police officer at Maverick. Okay, and I'm so drunk, I'm breaking down, bawling, like I'm crying and stuff to this, police officer in the middle of Maverick. This is about where my night ends for me. Like I don't know how I didn't get arrested for public intoxication or drunk driving. I was driving a car. Like I don't know, no idea how I didn't get a DUI. Why? I have no idea why I would go and talk to the cops while I was that fucking drunk. You know, but anyways, this might explain to you like the level of inebriation. I didn't realize that I had talked to the cops, and I went back over to Ben's house for like a couple more weeks after that, and of course word got around to him, you know, and stuff. Well, anyways, I come back up to up north in Salt Lake City, Magna area, and I go to my mom's house and stuff. So when I pull in, somebody runs up to the car and asks me if I'm arriving or just leaving. And I didn't think anything of it, because at this time, like, how when you're like, you get blackout drunk and you remember, like, it's almost like a picture. Like, like, you don't, I don't know how to explain it if you've never been blacked out drunk, but it's like a still frame, And at this point, I don't even remember talking to the police. I have no idea. I know that my dad's acting weird, real weird, and that they were being real weird down there, and so that's why I came back up north. Anyways, so they asked me if I'm arriving or just leaving, and I say arriving and stuff. And all of a sudden, there's Mexicans driving in cars and stuff around and everything, and in my mind, I just made the connection between, I have Mexicans up here, at my house, which, like, how did they even find out where I lived? And then there's, my cousin was murdered and chopped up by Mexicans. And who is, like, I don't know, the staple for chopping people up? And so my brain just automatically assumed the cartel's after me and stuff. And I fucking lose my shit, man. And so, anyways, I, you know, end up, you know, I end up getting out of town because they're, right there. And I end up going and living with family. Um, I don't want to, say anybody's, name except for Ben, because I kind of need that to be able to verify, what I'm saying. Um, because everything that I'm saying should be able to be verified to some degree. But, yeah, so I end up, going up there and things mellow out, like I get a job and stuff, and about, 4 months, into it, apparently, somebody had put out like an alert, like, they're looking for me, kind of thing. And I didn't know it, but one of my coworkers at the place that I was working, starts a conversation with somebody, and she's like FaceTiming him, and like it's in a big warehouse where they keep like grocery stuff, and it's like an open bay warehouse, so there's just pallets on the bottom of the rack, so it's like open through, and so I'm on one side, and she's literally like 15 feet from me at the break table, because they just have a break table, not a break room, and she's talking about it and stuff that so and so's looking for him, and they'll pay this much or whatever, kind of thing. And so I lose my shit, and like I start, like drinking and stuff, and just I lose it. And then I am like, you know what? I'm gonna hop on a Greyhound and just take off, and then I'll have like, $1,000, left over, wherever I'm going to get to, and I'll, see if I can live on the streets until I can, get a job and, restart my life somewhere else. So I bought a ticket to Boston. Don't know exactly why I picked as far as you could go east, but anyways, I get to the, bus station and stuff, and I think that the cartel's after me, and I'm, slamming them back, just drinking and stuff, and I call up my friend. He's like one out of two friends that I have. I call him up, and I'm crying at Greyhound Station, and I'm really emotional this time. But I'm like, oh, I snitched on the cartel, and apparently somebody at the Greyhound Station fucking knew who to call. They fucking, next thing you know, somebody followed me all the way from uh, Utah all the way to Boston, and like every like 6 or so stops, they'd purchase another ticket, purchase another ticket, purchase another ticket, and stuff. Well, I noticed this, and they've tried to, like we hit not we hit New Jersey, or I think it's New Jersey stop, and they're like, hey, come outside, like they're trying to, these thug dudes are trying to get me to go outside and stuff. Anyways, like when it's time to get back on the bus, like these people are following me, and I go and I let everybody get on before me, okay, and then I just fucking swoop, like left, and I look back, and the Mexican dude who's been purchasing tickets, the whole time is like, fucking getting out of his seat, trying to, get up and get off the bus, kind of thing. But I just stayed in the bus station. I did not leave, kind of thing. But that's how, that got going. And at this point, cartel's not involved at all. I thought that, but that just wasn't the case. It was definitely, American organized crime, but not cartels. And so, um, I end up, trying to go back and, I end up not being able to, I run out of money in Columbus, Missouri. Columbus, Missouri. And, you know, I'll, maybe I'll make a different video for more of the details and stuff, but needless to say, I check myself into a mental hospital, tell them I'm going to kill myself, kind of thing, to get into a mental hospital until I can get one of my family members to purchase me a ticket back to Utah. So, okay, that happens. Come back, and then I end up staying with my grandma for a little bit. And that whole time, like, I stayed with her like 6 months. And that whole time, I stayed on main roads. I would take a job at, like BioLife or something like that. And I would go, main road to there, and I would stay inside the whole time. I never went on a back road or anything like that. We'll end up, a few of or somebody close to me, super close, one of the two, set me up and tried to get me with this company that set up, what is a computer or desk area? Cubicles. So we tear down and they set up cubicles. I only did the tear down part, kind of thing, but apparently the owner of the company has like been caught for, like federal embezzlement, kind of deal, and stuff, and that just furthers my, thought process that this is, cartel kind of thing. Yeah, because at this time I'm like not drawing a distinction, between different Mexican gangs. I'm not part of that life. Like, even though I had a drug issue, all of my drugs came from one of the two. Like my brother, essentially, my brother and my dad. I always had like a person in between, me and the drug dealers. I've met 3 serious drug dealers in my life. 3. And one of them, I knew him in like 5th grade. And we weren't friends, but he was friends with my other friend, one of the two, and like they were close friends. But I met him, and cool dude, known him for forever, kind of thing. Then there was one Samoan, that I knew, no names, but and then Ben. So, I'm not really, part of that life. Gangs, people robbing people, stuff like that. Not my cup of tea. I work for my money, and I've never had a crime against another person except for a disorderly conduct because I got drunk. Big shock there, and broke my dad's radio, and I ended up getting a disorderly conduct for that. But anyways, so I think that it's cartel, kind of thing. And then as I ended up trying to kill myself. I don't know if you can see that right there. This zigzaggy scar. Cut all the tendons, lost the use of this hand and stuff. While I was at my grandma's, because like they were putting pressure on me at work and stuff like that, like showing up at my work, following me around, like keeping eyes on me. And so I ended up trying to, off myself, kind of thing. And I really didn't want to kill myself. I just was so scared of being caught and like tortured and stuff. Because, the horror stories, because remember at this time, I think the, cartel's coming after me. So I ended up trying to kill myself. Well, I ended up getting out of the hospital, after that, and I, asked my mom if I can stay with her until I get my surgery to get these tendons fixed, kind of thing. She's my mom. She loves me, and so she lets me stay, even though it's probably super bad. But this whole time, I'm fucking losing my mind. Like I've just like tried to off myself. Obviously I'm not super healthy, and I'm, crazy, like paranoid. Healthy, I should be though at this stage, but have it in my mind that that's going to happen. Well, anyways, I end up being able to get a job with my mom, and I start working with her and stuff, and I'm saving up to be able to um, go and kind of restart my life. Well, they start showing up to my work and stuff, and this goes on for a little bit, but then one of them goes up to my boss and tells him that I'm a snitch or whatever. And I saw this with my own two eyes. And he goes over to the deli person and he tells him whatever that guy told him. He tells to the deli guy, and me and this deli guy butt heads, kind of thing, real hard. That motherfucker blasts it on social media, dude. And then all of a sudden, I got fucking everybody and their dog showing up at my fucking work. Like, oh, dude, he's fucking, like, trying to, act like you don't care, like challenging us, kind of thing. And stuff. And so I fucking, lose my shit again. And I end up in a, mental hospital kind of thing, check myself in because I need to be safe, and it's just more effective than calling the police or anything like that because I have no evidence, like what am I supposed to do? Like so I do that, check myself into the hospital, and when I go to the hospital, like people are showing up at the hospital. Like, so when we drive there, people are like side by side the whole way with my mom's car, dude. And so at this point, my mom gets a little freaked out, kind of thing. And so we get to the hospital, and while we're there, like people check themselves in, Mexican dude, and he's just fucking going off, talking about what he's gonna do to me, like, oh, boom, 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 and he's super aggro and stuff. And I don't know, I don't know exactly how it happened, but I ended up going to this one, mental hospital. Details being another video. But this one place, and I'm in there, and like 3 other dudes come in, and they know who I am, and they're telling me stories that are very similar to what I'm like experiencing, what I think is going on, and stuff. And so this is going on for like 4 or 5 days. This place is super sketchy. They put me in the room with fucking like an actual cartel member, not like at least I don't think a U.S. like Mexican gang guy. Like we're talking like white khakis. I don't even know what that is. Serranios maybe, but needless to say, they're like talking to me and they're giving me very similar stories and stuff like that and everything. And it just seemed like to me like they're trying to get me to confirm something for them or whatever. But anyways, I don't say anything to them. I talk to the doctor after like the 4th or 5th day. He hasn't seen me, until then. I just got there. Nobody saw me. My prescriptions came out of thin air. But anyways, I talked to him about it, and he says the weirdest thing. Like, I tell him the situation, with my dad, and he's like, well, do you think that your dad had a previous arrangement with them. And this is weird because, as far as he is concerned, like, because I'm still kind of scared to talk about it and stuff like that. As far as he is concerned, I'm crazy, and I think that these people are after me. But he, without trying to see if what I'm saying is the, makings of fucking delusion, he automatically is just like kind of defending the people that are supposedly after me, in his eyes, that are after me, kind of thing. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And then after that, that's when they got involved. And yeah, after that, I saved up my money, and like, this is how far out there I was. I was gonna go live in the wilderness and just live off the land and stuff, So I started getting like all this gear and stuff like that. And the originally I was supposed to get a 380 auto from my mom, but or from a family member. I don't want to say, but somebody close to me was supposed to give me a gun, and then they were influenced not to. But anyways, I got somebody to drive me up there because I have no car. Well, I had a car at the time, but it wouldn't make it, all the way up there, kind of thing. And so we set a date to go up there and stuff. And we kind of have like a birthday send off. So we go to the Wild Ginger restaurant to eat. And, we're eating. All of a sudden, the whole fucking place fills up with, Latinos and stuff. And they're like talking, and they're like, oh, look, he's scared and stuff like that. Like, they're saying this, and I'm just trying so hard to ignore it, and just fucking, stay in my lane, kind of thing. And then after that, like, I get kind of weirded out because that is, happening. So I, try to get the person who is giving me a ride up there, who's close to me, to take me to a slightly different place. So, like, let's say here's the road going up and like goes up and over like this, and we're talking that's 100-mile span. Well, at about this point in that trip, you would just go like this, and it actually end up being a shorter distance. He freaks out and says, no, I will only take you to this place. So that ends up happening. They are there. So there's more details with that, but we'll say I hike like 6 or 7 miles over and then up to the top of like the last kind of peak in a like kind of a valley thing. And because this whole area has no signal, and I end up getting cell phone signal. And so I call the police, get them up there, saying people are after me. Well, I end up, checking myself into a mental hospital again, just to get down the mountain. Okay. And, they're like cops are like now like coming like white faced, and they're like, you can't be fucking, giving this dude a ride or whatever. They have no idea that I'm not, gonna kill myself. As far as they know, you just have somebody who's coming down off the mountain after, like a suicide attempt or something like that. Totally weird reactions, so I think that they were, being influenced. And that's why I say, like, now the cartel, like, after that visit to the hospital, and I said that, now they really are, I thought they were previously, but now they really are. And when I was up there, like, I heard the people, because I said they were up there. How I knew that is because I It's in canyons. So you can hear, like I could have a conversation at this volume with somebody on the other side of the canyon, like a half mile away. Sorry, just checking. But I heard them talking about it, talking about coming up and grab me by my legs, and just, taking me, and about what they would get in return. Yeah. But, so I get down there anyways. Now I'm in the mental hospital and stuff. And, I got people coming in and all that. Really, from here on out, this is just kind of like bringing, this is what I'm doing right now. But needless to say, is I had no dealings with them or anything, so like all you people that are, treating me like I betrayed somebody or something like that, didn't happen. Didn't happen. What happened is I was naive and stupid, and I thought that I was being pursued by a criminal organization that I had no reason to be pursued by, essentially, I guess. I made a big assumption, but the fact that, I was super scared and stuff, because there were people coming after me and stuff. It was just at a much smaller scale. There was there was a decent chance that I could, flee the state after saving up some money, and nothing, like I'd be able to live, and stuff. But now, I can't. But that's the situation, though, is I thought that my dad was being blackmailed, while he just lost his house, and I thought that that was a contributing factor to why he lost his house, is because of this guy. Because my dad, through, being a drunk or anything like that, he's never been without a house. And he had like a place to stay in Texas that he could at any time. Like, why would you still be here in Utah? You have cancer and stuff like that. But anyways, I thought that, and then I talked to the cops and told them that this guy, is blackmailing my dad, and stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't even think that is now, because I've learned a little bit more, through videos and stuff like that, about like the ethics and stuff like that. I don't think that that's considered snitching. I don't, um, I don't know exactly what it would be classified, to be honest, but I just don't think that it's classified as that, because it's just like the only thing that would classify it as that is that I was doing drugs at the time that I contacted the police for somebody, and it was in seeking the well-being of a family member, and I really thought that at the time. And my dad died about 7 months after that, from cancer. So I don't know. I thought that I had a valid reason, to talk to the cops, and it was just that I talked to the cops. I didn't, set somebody up. I didn't work with them. I just said, this guy is a drug dealer. And the response to that, literally, if it hadn't have been a Mexican that showed up at my mom's house, I wouldn't have thought that it was cartel. And the fact that my cousin was murdered, Wesley Ney, you can look it up, in October of 2016. And he was my cousin. I played with him, Danny Ney, on the lot, because my uncle Danny owns half of the lot, in Mount Pleasant. But yeah, if those two didn't, line up, and the fact that I have no idea what, as far as like the criminal element, of society. No fucking idea. Like, I've never robbed anybody, never, pointed a gun at anybody, never, beat somebody up for fucking no reason or to try and take their shit. I've never stolen from anybody. Oh, that's not true. I did steal a skateboard when I was like 14, but anyway, you know what I mean. Just not my field. But because I was doing drugs, apparently that declassifies me as a civilian. So I'm no longer a civilian at that point. So me talking to the cops, people showed up at my house. And to be honest, now I don't even know if he really was being blackmailed. And the reason for that is that just after that happened, my dad tried to get me to go down there and go into this house with these dudes. And then we went on a fishing trip. He convinced me to go on a fishing trip. And he tries to get me to pull off to another, known guy down there. I didn't know him, but I was told about him, and I know what his trailer looks like and stuff. And it was pulled off in this real hidden alcove and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, hey, pull off here," kind of thing. But so if he would do that, he would definitely try and set me up, or he might, I should say, might try and set me up to be robbed. But yeah, that is the reason that this all started. Yeah, crazy, shitty, and I'm a you know goner. Apparently, that's the way these things generally end. But